Chung, our protagonist, was mesmerized and admiring the armor, and every time he passed by this store, he wanted to come in and take a look so that one day he would be able to wear this gear too. Although he is not considered an adventurer yet, as long as he keeps working hard, he can make it. Chung delightfully took notes and planned that the new product this time has resistance to magic bin enhance the appearance has also been adjusted to look cooler. Then, a thought came to his mind that the defense rate against attacks could reach 15%, since the new model this time didn't seem to be much of an upgrade from the previous one. All of a sudden, the agent warmly welcomed the new customer. Two men arrived at the store. The other man seemed to be his assistant bodyguard, informing him they didn't have much time, and he still had a batch of adventurer membership applications to process when they returned, which is telling him he doesn't care, as they are all people who couldn't qualify for strategies at other guilds, and trying their luck on them. Thus, Hexian ordered his assistant bodyguard to reject all the applications, and they don't accept trash. Then the agent approached Hexian, informing him that they just received some new items, and asked if he wanted her to introduce them to him, which Hexian agreed, as his time was tight. They proceeded to the area where the new and good things are, so the agent explained that this row was the latest series, enhanced for certain harsh environments, and pointed an armor has been reinforced for poison resistance and cold resistance, while Chung was still checking on the new armor and taking notes about it. But Hexian attention suddenly shifted on Chung and asked if Chung was a reporter. So the agent made clear that he's not a reporter, he was just a regular customer who often comes to the store. Hearing this information, Hexian walked closer and told him he was a mere level 3 adventurer customer. So Chung looked at him and was surprised. Then, Chung confusingly asked if there was something he needed, while Hexian activated his skill perception, as the screen showed Cheng's stat, telling him that he was a level 3 and the number of portals he entered was 67, and the number of portals he cleared was 0. However, Hexian told Chung what he was writing, and he looked at the note and wondered. After reading it, Hexian gets annoyed that Chung is comparing the pros and cons of the different gears, so he belittles him, saying that he can't even complete the lowest level strategy and that he needs to stop pretending in a place like this. Hexian informed him that they work hard and pay taxes to the association, and the association uses it to support useless people like him. Hearing it, Chung got pressured as he didn't know what he was trying to say. So Chung just apologized to him, and he needed to get through, but as he to walk out, the Hexian hold his shoulder, stopping him not to walk away, and telling him not to get rude when someone's talking to him. But in Cheng's mind, he didn't want to cause any trouble, and it's better to avoid as soon as possible. Suddenly, Hexian held him tightly, and an electric power emerged in his hand as he asked Chung how he had obtained level 3 without clearing a single dungeon, while Chung just stared at him. As a result, Chung shrugs off his hands and tells Hexian not to touch him. Due to the strong impact, his hands toss in the air. After hearing it, Hexian is not happy about what Chung said, which triggers him and gives him a death glare. Chung coughed so hard, and he knew he had been touched by magic power and was having an allergic reaction again. However, Hexian activated his manifesting arm equipment as he clenched his fist, while a strong electric power was flowing in his hands, and immediately punched Chung into his stomach, causing a strong impact on Cheg's body, while Hexian asked if he cannot touch him. Because of that, Chung fell onto the ground, while Hexian told him that he was trashy one, and that if he wanted to have such dignity, he should make an effort to progress, since Chung entered the portal 67 times, and from the beginning he suspected Chung to be a spy or something, as he threatened Chung that if he was going to report him to the association and rewarded him. So the agent rushed to Cheng's help him to stood up, and asked if he was okay, that Cheng's nose was bleeding. Due to the pain, Chung told the agent that he was fine, while he covered his nose as he was trying to stop the bleeding. Then Hexian threatens him even though he has no grudge against Chung, as he warns him that if they see him again, he will kill him and that he had better stay away. So he told the agent to stop worrying him and come over, as she should tell him about the new products. The agent looked at Chung and was concerned about him, but Chung insisted that he was fine and thanked her. Chung left the store and walked like nothing happened to him. He looks again to the store as he finally feels much better, and he knew that Hexian looks like he's from a big guild, so he'd better not cause any trouble with him. Adventurer named Chung, a level 3, no profession. He is an adventurer, but he's someone who can never become a true adventurer, because an adventurer without a profession has no future, no matter how he look at it. One day, strange portals suddenly appeared all over the world, and experts from various countries were studying the data emanating from these portals. At first, only a few monsters crawled out of the portals, but after a while, the number of monsters suddenly increased, and the situation quickly got out of control. Various countries formed joint military forces, but modern weapons proved ineffective against the monster. Fortunately, before being forced to use nuclear weapons, someone discovered warriors who suddenly burst forth with special powers during battles with the monsters. After studying the relationship between these warriors and the monster, the profession of the adventurer appeared in the world. Ordinary people gain the adventurer profession upon killing their monster, and this process is akin to drawing powerful characters or rewards in a game. After killing a monster, Chung was thrilled, and the window system suddenly popped up, announcing his rewards. Unexpectedly, after he reads it, Cheng's eyes lead to confusion and disappointments, since what he drew in that day was something rarer than the highest level reward. The industry has been developing for several years, and adventurers have already become the profession with the greatest potential for wealth, and those with exceptional talent can soar, becoming stars and idols, since the average ones can only struggle on the edge life and death for survival. The Adventurers Guild also implements a simple and efficient competition system, highlight the importance of talent even more, and those favored by talent, power, and wealth occupy the vast majority of resources. While ordinary people have no fate other than becoming scattered men with no affiliation, and people with poor backgrounds can only be devoured in this resource hunt. On the same day, in an abandoned building area, adventurer named Chung, a level 3, no profession. He is an adventurer, but he's someone who can never become a true adventurer, because an adventurer without a profession has no future, no matter how he look at it. Adventurer named Chung, a level 3, no profession. He is an adventurer, but he's someone who can never become a true adventurer, because an adventurer without a profession has no future, no matter how he look at it. Suddenly, Cheng's teammate called him and told him to come over to them, which Chung saw them. So Chung was surprised that they were there too and called their names. Uncle Zhonghyuk, Changho, and Yunchiol, and his uncle explained that today it seemed to be just an E-level dungeon, but for some reason, several level 20s came, which Chung understood and told them as he thought it would be at least D or C. Chung agreed and pulled out his notebook, saying that maybe there was something special in this dungeon, which his uncle knew that Chung would take out his precious notebook again. But then, a girl named Xiaoqian, a level 6 healer, excitingly greeted everyone while she waved his hands. Xiaoqian interrupted them, saying even if he knew there was something precious inside, they wouldn't get anything from it. So Chung closed his notebook and explained it was not just the drops, but he also recorded the dungeon's minerals, ecological environment, and such in his notebook. But Xiaoqian made Chung aware that they didn't have a chance to raid dungeons, and she asked what the use of his explanation was, which made Cheng's mind up. Chung looked at his notebook and reflected that it was not useless. Exactly because many dangers in dungeons are deadly, the more you know, the better your chances of survival, and besides, he will become an adventurer who can raid dungeons someday. But then, their attention suddenly shifted, and they noticed that someone was coming out of the portal. It turned out it was Hexian who confidently stepped out of the portal, as he smirked that he knew all of the people would look at him. Someone announced that the young master was already here, as he hid his equipment, and told everyone they would start soon. Upon seeing it, Chung was kind of shocked as he saw Hexian and didn't expect that he would be there. Hexian complimented one of his members, saying that he did a good job last time, so he could each pick a piece of equipment from the warehouse when they were done, which his member thanked him. Suddenly, Hexian's mood changed as he saw Chung from a distance. Chung immediately turned around, as he knew Hexian saw him, so he grabbed Xiaoqian's hands and told her that they should go, which confused Xiaoqian. However, it's too late for Chung as he was just being restrained by Hexian and asking him if he ignoring his words, which Chung was anxious about it. Chung steps aside his fear, as he take off Hexian's hands, and telling him where he'd go has nothing to do with him. As a result, Hexian is infuriated and grabs Cheng's head. Then he kicks his abdomen. Due to the strong impact, Chung falls to the ground while his allergy to magic is triggering. Hexian holds his head again while forming a gigantic fireball, reminding Chung, saying he was the one who gave them a trashy job, and if Chung made Hexian mad, he could kill him right now and no one would stop him. Hexian notices something unusual in Cheng's situation and asks if he is sick, as he was coughing and having nosebleeds for no reason. Luckily for Chung, the association security officer asked Hexian what he was doing and that he should let go Chung, or she will report him to the association, since the boss of the association did not allow this kind of treatment. Hearing this, Hexian shifted the gigantic fireball and threw it in the other direction. The gigantic fireball was approaching the people nearby, and they were panicking as they saw it. The fireball exploded and shattered into pieces, causing the people to cover their heads from the debris. The association security officer called Hexian and told him not to do that anymore, and Hexian just smiled as he jokingly said his hands slipped after holding it up for too long. Hexian stood up, belittling Chung, saying he was a natural-born loser, wanting to be an adventurer but not having the talent, as he asked what was the point of his living, while Chung was trying to get up and coughing continuously. Chung stood up with a wound on his face and gritted his teeth due to anger. Following that, Chung slowly walked out and Xiaoqian rushed towards to him, asking if he was okay, while Hexian invited the security officer to grab a drink with him. Meanwhile, the fire mage and the tanker earlier smirk, as they have to kill the chicken to scare the monkey every time, meaning they are planning to kill Chung. Both of them had crossed their path. The mage asked if it was the special treatment he meant, which Hexian agreed and ordered that he'd leave the rest to him. Following that, the tanker informed everyone it was about time, and they should form a line before they enter. The portal's magic was detected as E-level, suitable for levels 3 to 5, but the monsters were already cleared, so even low-level folks won't be in danger. On the other side, Xiaoqian was still concerned about Cheng's condition and asked if he was feeling okay, to which Cheng rest assured her that he was completely fine. The portal leads to another world, constantly emitting magic, and by measuring the leaked magic, they can determine the accurate level inside. As it checked it using by their specialized tool, I detected that the level is unknown, and dungeons are ranked as A, B, C, D, E. But in Cheng's experience, he'd only come across E-level and D-level. E-level is generally suitable for adventurers between levels 1 to 5, but they aren't there to raid the dungeon. They were there to gather minerals. Adventurers involved in this kind of work are generally below level 10, and almost all of them are failures driven out of the industry, and its only thing they have the opportunity to do is enter dungeons when someone hires them, which Chung and Xiaoqian were walking towards the portal. Chung was close to the portal and put his hands first, so the portal only closed once they were done with their work, but the dungeon drops and boss loot were none of their business. However, whenever Cheng's body comes into contact with magic, it has a rejection reaction. It always causes him unbearable pain. So Chung had no choice but to endure it, otherwise, there is no way to survive. The Tower of Forgetfulness. As Chung successfully entered the Tower of Forgetfulness. But then, Cheng's allergy had been triggered since he stepped into the portal, causing his nose to bleed. Because of that, Chung kneeled on the ground and endured the pain. Without any delay, Xiaoqian and his uncle rushed towards him, and they asked if he was okay. Meanwhile, the mage and the defender saw what happened to Chung, which the mage teased, calling him the abandoned adventurer. Then the defender made fun of him, saying that Chung was a loser because he was sick. After a few minutes, Cheng's body was back to normal, as he knew there was nothing new causing him to be embarrassed every time it happened. But then, the assault warrior told everyone to get started in this area. Suddenly, Xiaoqian was worried about Chung and looked in every corner as she didn't know where he was. To her surprise, Chung was already engrossed in the corner, switching every stone after he dug it. At the same time, his two uncles felt pity for Chung, and his other uncle, after vomiting blood, now worked so hard, while his other uncle asked if he didn't hear what they said earlier. They called Chung the abandoned adventurer, to which his other uncle asked what it meant. So he explained that the abandoned adventurer, during the Adventurer's Awakening ceremony, has a rare chance similar to a hidden profession, where a disease appears along with the level. Their bodies reject the adventurer's magic, causing allergic reactions at best and damage to all the organs at worst. Many who suffer from this disease die suddenly in the middle of using skills in the battle due to the damage caused by magic. Even healing can cause death. Unable to use skills, unable to fight, such people are usually called the abandoned adventurer, and the other term for the magic intolerance is also known as magic disease, which it was Cheng's screen informing his body cannot withstand the burden of adventurer magic, as he cannot obtain a profession. But the man advised him not to be fooled by his level 3. He had entered dozens of portals to work, gaining a tiny bit of experience to level up, and if he hadn't been born with it, he would have been a powerhouse. On the other side, Chung continuously farms the crystals because he knows he can't fight and can only rely on the tiny amount of experience gained from exploration itself to level up. Since magic disease can be treated abroad, but it requires an enormous amount of money, so he can still level up and save money in this way. Chung pulls out something from his pocket. It was his paper that contained the recruitment advertisement, Adventurer Guild recruiting strategy advisors to plan routes and dungeon tactics. Because of this piece of paper, he was inspired to earn enough money to cure his illness, buy equipment, and join the guild. Filled with passion in his eyes, he promised himself that he would become an adventurer again. Following that, a cart full of crystals arrived, and someone asked if this was the last load. Chung was busy placing his crystals on the cart, while someone reminded they should be heading out soon. And if they stay any longer, higher-level adventurers will show up, making the dungeon more difficult, which everyone agreed, since they can't handle level 20 monsters. Cheng's attention shifted to another direction as he felt something strange in this place. He was looking at the Tower of Forgetfulness, causing him to feel a magic coming from the tower, so he wonders if the final boss room was there, and it's about time to close the portal. Chung realized there was not only one boss in this dungeon, and suspected that there were two bosses in this place, since you could see two towers in the area. All of a sudden, someone slashed his back, causing him to let go of the crystals. Then everyone panicked, especially Xiaoqian, who ran to Chung, as she asked what he was doing, which the mage man told her not to blame them, since the boss asked them to take good care of Chung, and the assault man threatened if they want to live, they should back off. Cheng's allergies have been triggered, and he recalls Hexian asking him why he kept targeting him over and over. Chung held his left part of the body where the pain was, while the mage man explained that Hexian said he had a magic disease, as they felt pitiful, and ordered them to send him off. But then Chung stood up and endured the pain, while Xiaoqian told him not to go on them, but Chung didn't listen to her, since into his mind, being a useless adventurer is even a living crime, and cursing them all. The mage man summoned his skill and belittled Chung, saying that he wanted to be an adventurer, but he was born sickly, and threatened him, saying that he would use his highest level skill to kill him in one go. Hearing that, Chung smirks that he understood what Hexian meant let him help, for someone like him who is desperately trying to live and looking ahead. Chung sees their villainous aura and asks what they know about him, and they were just outlaws who take pleasure in other people's lives. Chung didn't know what exactly they wanted, and he didn't do anything to cause them harm, which he wondered if they thought their god could easily judge other people's lives at will. Meanwhile, in the real world, someone saying the association has a new policy to reduce excessive competition is required to spend more money on low-level adventures and thank him for his help in handling and nurturing them, which he assured them, and no needed to be so polite. Hearing it, Hexian laughed and mocked those low-level warriors by calling them trash and saying they needed to disappear since no one cared if one or two people go missing, while the caller advised him to be careful and make sure it was clean, because if those guys in the inspection department investigate, no one can save anyone. Hexian assured him it wouldn't happen, and smirked cause he knew no one who shouldn't be alive would walk out of there today. The world always revolves around the strong, no one cares where people die. Meanwhile, back in the dungeon, a gigantic fireball has formed in the air. The mage man tossed his fireball at Chung, which he avoided, causing the ground to be badly damaged. Because of that, some pieces from the scattered rocks hit his face, causing it to bleed, which he knew was a level 3 fireball skill magic-type profession. Chung tries to run as he was trying to save his life, which he thought the mage man will use highest level skill, but in the end, the mage man just wanted to torture him. Another fireball attacked towards Chung, but this time he couldn't escape it. Because of that, it directly hits Chung, causing a large explosion to occur where Chung was. Seeing it, the mage man grinned his teeth, and he knew he had finally hit Chung. Due to the strong impact, Chung flew in midair while the mage man was looking at him mercilessly. Chung burst into tears as he still wanted to become an adventurer and couldn't accept dying like this, so he summoned his weapon and attacked the mage man. However, the mage man had seen Cheng's upcoming attack, so he summoned his magic skill again to counter his attack. Suddenly, the mage man was in a state of shock as he was hit by Cheng's strike, causing him to be suppressed. Following that, Cheng's heart beats uncontrollably since his allergies have been triggered again, causing him to vomit a lot of blood. Chung hardly landed on the beside on the mage man. Unexpectedly, the assault warrior stepped on Cheng's head, while he was laughing insanely. The assault warrior stabbed his sword into Cheng's body, causing blood to be splattered, and thanked Chung for giving them all a laugh. Because of that, he vomits a lot of blood, which all of he felt was pain, as he asked himself if he was going to die. Chung was confused about what he did do, and why he had to die just because he had no power. But then, the other warriors were shocked why they had to be killed too, which he explained that how could they let them go out and talk about it. Meanwhile, the Tower of Forgetfulness suddenly released a dark energy flowing onto the tower, So the screen showed that dungeon anomaly detected, dungeon boss replaced with high level. After that, the tower was covered with a white aura entering inside the tower. Suddenly, a flying man was approaching where the mage man was. A white-haired man with a muscular body crushed the mage man's head easily on the ground. Cheng's consciousness slowly faded, as he just witnessed what happened to the mage man. It turns out to be two Grim Reapers had just arrived on the dungeon, while the other one smirks while holding the head of the mage. Soul Reaper's black and white impermanence. In a parallel universe, Chung can be seen standing in a cold, dark place. Chung checked every corner of the place, as he was confused about where he was and why it was so dark all around. Chung heard a voice saying a player detected entering, leading him to wonder where it was coming from. Then Chung was startled that a cursed shrine had appeared, saying that he must proceed. He looks at the cursed shrine with blood on it, as he didn't know what that thing was. Chung realized the voice seemed to be coming from inside the cursed shrine. So driven by his curiosity, Chung put his hands on the inside the cursed shrine, daring that something was inside. All of a sudden, Chung was surprised that something had bitten him. In an instant, a cursed brush has appeared saying, "Why Chung poking him for?" and calling him pervert. The cursed brush warmly welcomed Chung and asked if he was the one who had activated the system. But Chung was confused and asked what he meant about the system and what kind of place this was since it was empty. Hearing the word empty, leading the cursed brush to be baffled, and he asks what Chung is talking about. The cursed brush surprised Chung that the gates of hell were right behind him, and the reflection of the water saw the gate with a chain on it. Chung realizes, based on the reflection on the water, as he slowly turns his head on his back. Then, Chung was astonished by the gigantic gate behind him, while the cursed brush told Chung that he was already dead. Upon hearing it, Chung froze in fear and widened his eyes as if he was dead. Chung recalled what had happened in the dungeon, as he was killed by the assault warrior who stabbed his sword. After that, Chung perceived that he was killed at the dungeon, causing him to sit on the ground, devastated, as he fully remembered his death. Chung was frustrated as he just wanted to cure his disease and be a regular adventurer. But the cursed brush jokingly asked if he needed some comfort and explained that his life was miserable to begin with, so there's no point in living. So he told Chung enough about being dramatic since he was already dead as they needed to go inside, which Chung confusingly looked at him. Without any delay, the ground was shaking as the gate of hell slowly opened. So they both entered the gate as they walking. Chung asked what would happen to him after he died, and the cursed brush said just come with him. Behind Cheng's face can't describe as he felt depressed, and the cursed brush was amazed saying that Cheng quickly accepted it. As they reached their destination, Cheng asked where it was and why it was so dark, but the cursed brush told him to rest assured and that he'd understand it soon. Then, out of nowhere, all the torches in the room started to light, and Chung was amused by the room as it was huge, and the cursed brush informed Chung that this was the trial site and told him to follow. Chung looks at every corner of the room and tells him it feels like the palace of the giant king, even though he'd only seen it online, but the cursed brush told him to cut the amazement, as they needed to hurry up. But Cheng's attention shifted as he saw a gigantic corpse in the room, and the cursed brush told him that he must show some respect for Lord Yama's corpse, which Chung had heard Lord Yama's name before. The cursed brush explained that when a person dies, their soul comes to the underworld to be judged for their actions in life. The wicked will fall into hell for eternal punishment, and the only one with the authority to pass judgment is the ruler of the Een world, who commands countless Een soldiers and ghostly minions. Hearing it, Chung remembered that in methodology, there's a god who writes the lifespan of the living with a pen Yama, which he confirms it was Lord Yama. Chung got annoyed as he widened his eyes and asked how the ruler of the underworld died, and telling him to stop making up stories, which the cursed brush explained who would dare lie about something like this, since dead means dead. However, Chung doubts him and asks who would like to believe his ghost story, so the cursed brush shows him a wall with a lot of writing on it and tells him to look at the words on the wall. As Chung walked closer to the wall and looked at it, he asked what was written on the wall, which the cursed brush told him that he needed to see for himself. So Chung looked closely at the wall and complained how he would supposed to understand if he wouldn't tell him. But then he felt strange and felt like he can understand those words and suspicious that those carvings are they records. Because of his curiosity, Chung looked for another detail and saw a painting on the wall that had been damaged. Chung knew it was the god of the underworld, and his soldiers were battling someone. As he looked at the other images, there were some other unclear messages next to them, but if he combined them with the text, the general meaning became clear. Chung realized that as the initiator of the war, Lord Yama was defeated and his head was severed, and his corpse was buried there. And for some reason, a monument and mural were placed here, with a trial set up to protect his corpse. Chung looked back again to the wall, as he knew it was filled with Lord Yama's grievances and curses against someone. Upon realizing it, Chung was kind of shocked that a war between the rulers of the world, and questioned if it was real. All of a sudden, a notification system popped up, informing that it was a solo mission. Among the many heroes that appear, find the one true head of Lord Yama. Time limit is none, and the reward is a potion that can heal all pain and wounds. It's called Mangpa soup. After reading it, Chung asked if the system saying about the pen could be that, but the cursed brush interrupted, and explained this as the trial he'd mentioned complete it, and he'd be returned to life. The cursed brush confessed that Chung was a half-dead person, not a pure dead one, causing Chung to be startled as he thought he was already dead. Because of that, Chung bonked his head, leading him to be tossed on the ground. Chung read it again and drew upon that seemed like his not completely dead, at least not in the true sense. And even though he didn't know if this place was a dungeon, since the most important thing for him now is to come back to life, if he do as instructed, causing him to wonder if he would be resurrected. Chung knew this mission seemed full of doubts, but the Mangpa soup, which seemed to have some deeper meaning, might be able to cure his disease, which he'd been longing for all along, so he quickly pressed the yes button and was willing to risk it. Suddenly, a lot of heads were falling from above, while Chung was busy looking at the screen. As it came closer to him, the heads of random entities appeared, and it was looking at him. Chung was panicked as the heads continuously falling. Because of that, Chung immediately asked the cursed brush about the heads. The cursed brush informed him the trial has begun, and Chung clarified, saying out of so many heads, there was only one that was real. But the cursed brush explained to him that those heads were piled like a mountain, and Chung helplessly asked how he was supposed to find it. The cursed brush teases Chung, saying if it were easy to complete, it wouldn't be called a trial. Chung started to find the head of the Lord Yama and pick one, and told the cursed brush he'd have to search one by one since some of these are clearly not him, which the cursed brush agreed. As the head kept falling from above, while searching, Chung was frustrated as to how he could find it by just digging through this mountain of heads. Even the puzzles in the dungeons usually have clues. Chung continuously walked and kept complaining to the cursed brush that there was not even a single clue here, and the rules seemed to be hidden. Chung goes back to the written wall of Lord Yama. As he remembered aside from the mission window, the only text here is the prompt information, and it must be hidden in the text, while the cursed brush tries to distract him and asked if he was a great adventurer before, which Chung pleases him to stop bothering him. After reading it, Chung smirks within himself as he already got the clue that he was looking for. Hearing it, the cursed brush panicked and asked if he had discovered a secret, as he ordered Chung to tell him about it, while Chung was busy digging on the pile of heads. After a few minutes of digging, Chung transferred to the other pile of heads, while the cursed brush kept asking about the piece of information that Chung discovered, and informed Chung that he could help him about it, since he knew the answer, if Chung would tell the information. Suddenly, Chung was delighted and picked the head as he expected that it was the head of Lord Yama. Chung was looking and explained that based on the inscription says, Lord Yama, even in death, kept glaring at his enemy, and his face bore a huge scar from the final blow he did not avoid. So, Chung quickly turned around and asked the cursed brush if it was right, but the cursed brush advised him not to be rushed, that he'd find out soon enough, and if it's correct as he was retreating where Chung was. Hearing it, Chung was confused why the cursed brush said soon. But then, the right eye of the head suddenly created a laser light into it, which Chung saw it, that he knew it was going to burst. In an instant, a massive explosion occurred because of the head, and unluckily for Chung, he got hit by it. Because of that, Chung hardly tossed on the pile of heads, causing him to receive a lot of damage. Due to the explosion, Chung is weakly lying and told the cursed brush it exploded, while the cursed brush teases felt pity on him and told that he got it wrong. Chung quickly stood up as he felt the pain all over his body and asked himself where he had gone wrong. The inscription only mentioned those things about Lord Yama's face, leading to his suspicion that Lord Yama might not have a human face. But it didn't stop Chung, and while he endured his pain, he continued to walk and find the head of Lord Yama, as he knew there must be other qualifying options about it. Upon seeing it, the cursed brush compliments Chung on his hard work, and to encourage him, he will reveal some secrets. Chung stops as he hears it, and the cursed brush exposes that there was a time limit for the trial, and that is the time it takes for the black and white impermanence of the surface dungeon to completely eliminate the intruders. Cheng's accidental death activated the system, which started running according to its preset program. The black and white impermanence serves as a backup, meant to clear out monsters that cause player deaths. But in reality, it was humans who caused his death, and some of them were his companions. So the black and white impermanence, acting according to the system, will kill every living thing present unless he completes the trial and takes over the system. Upon hearing it, Chung was frozen and asked what he just said. Sweat started to appear on his face, and his mind was full of questions as he remembered Xiaoqian and the others if they were okay, or were they fighting the black and white impermanence right now. Driven by his desperation, Chung started to dig and find the head, causing him to wonder if the time it takes to eliminate the intruders is the same time limit for the trial, and if he doesn't hurry, everyone will die. Chung searches everywhere, and he needs to find the answer as soon as possible. And Chung failed to hurry, everyone in the dungeon is going to die. Meanwhile, a head with similarities to the one he was looking for bumped into the other. Then, Chung saw him from a distance and expected that it was the one. So he quickly rushed toward the head and trying to catch as he screamed, saying that he found it. As soon as he touched it, a large explosion happened again, and by this time, Chung had fainted due to the strong impact of the explosion. In the meantime, Chung suddenly woke up in a pile of heads in which he was buried, as he raised his hands. He quickly stood up in a hurry and asked if he was passed out and how much time had passed. The cursed bloodfly flew close to him and said it had been unconscious for about 20 minutes. So Chung was shocked, and it took a long time before he collapsed. Then, the cursed brush informed him that he had triggered a trap, and Chung asked if it was a punishment for the puzzle more heads in the air, which the cursed brush reminded him that his time was running out. Hearing it, Cheng's face turned into a serious mode, causing him to freeze again. But then, Chung showed a devilish laugh out of nowhere. The cursed brush got startled and confused about Cheng's sudden acting, while Chung continuously laughing that he already got his answer, as he questioned about the potion and his status for being half-dead. Chung smirks as he tells the cursed brush that he already knows about it and jokingly asks how there could just happen to be a potion that cures all diseases, and the cursed brush got annoyed hearing the dark joke, telling him he was crazy. In online strategy records, there are sometimes reports of dark dungeon rules designed to toy with people's hearts, and that is dark joke. The rules of these levels vary from tormenting people to causing them to kill each other, constantly giving hope and then despair. They deliberately made so many heads for Chung to choose from, but in reality, there is no answer at all. In the end, it's just a demonic level meant to toy with human nature, but the only truth is that it is playing with people's hearts. Chung sat down in the corner while the cursed brush asked if he had given up and reminded him that once he did it, he couldn't be resurrected, as he asked again if he had decided to give up, while Chung didn't pay attention to it. The forum thread on dark jokes became popular on the internet because of its inherent cruelty and darkness, aiming to play with people's minds. It lures players into division and isolation, even causing them to kill each other. It's like there's a little demon behind the portal, staring intently at its toys, which means the players, as they approach the table, mean dungeon. As he realized it, Chung couldn't help but laugh, that he foolishly thought this was his second chance in life, and called himself stupid. Then, Chung glimpses at the cursed brush, and sees it seems like he was in a hurry. Chung turns around and thinks the cursed brush is just happy, as he told himself it's not none of his business. But then, the cursed brush called Chung, saying he should be careful, and Chung looks at him. Chung just smiled, but he pondered what he was trying to say, as the cursed brush said that he must be careful. At that moment, Chung noticed the old man with the white beard suddenly floating. Chung notices that the heads in this room float around like they are in a zero-gravity space, bouncing and drifting after impacts and explosions, but they eventually stop and settle down. So Chung questions why the heads are floating on their own. So Chung stood up and described the floating heads as stirring the water with a stick, making ripples that move the leaves floating on the surface, which he tossed the head lightly with his finger. But then, Chung realized something about a stick stirring the water, and recalled those paintings and what was written on the wall, causing him to freeze in a second. Chung knew speculation is a useless substitute for action. He looks above, observes the approximate position from before, and repositioned himself as he was determined to try again. Chung threw a head towards the cursed brush, while he was not paying attention, and if Cheng's guess is correct, something will happen. The cursed brush seems not to notice that something is approaching him. It hit on the cursed brush, causing him to be startled and tossed, and asked what just happened. The cursed brush got annoyed and yelled as he asked what Chung was doing right now, which Chung acted like nothing happened and asked if he did something wrong. But then the cursed brush realized something. He couldn't let Chung keep messing around, or else he would figure it out. The cursed brush acted calmly and asked if he had surrendered already since giving up would be so much better, which Chung noticed something odd, leading him to ask why he was speaking to him nicely. Upon hearing it, the cursed brush started to have a cold sweat and explained he had always been kind to him, that he suggested that Chung must stay put and wait until the time is up. But then Chung just smiled that he already found his answer. The carving and murals on the walls are key clues to this trial, but if he misses another crucial part, the puzzle becomes unsolvable. That is, the initial system prompt said this is a solo quest. At first, Chung thought this trial was just an extra layer of protection for King Yama put in place to safeguard his body. Chung couldn't read the words on the walls, but he couldn't feel the message they conveyed, so the final words left in the text were, "Once the king departed hand in hand." This trial was meant for the person mentioned in the text. The evidence is that if King Yama truly didn't want anyone to find his head, he could have just set up a death trap and not placed the real head in the room. However, the true answer was always fixed in the position above and behind the puzzle solver, and it shifts as the solver changes direction while Chung was walking in the room. Chung knew where the answer was since there was still one last step, and started to search for the clues again. While he was observing Chung, the cursed brush saw something suddenly strange about Cheng's actions. Chung walks closer to King Yama's corpse and wonders how he would retrieve the head fixed behind him and place it at the end, as it's so tall, and he questions if King Yama from the myth is like this. So Chung thinks that climbing up can't be the solution. That would be too crude, as he remembers the phrase broaden your perspective. Chung started to analyze as he wondered who exactly is the old one referred to in the text, was since the final step of the puzzle undoubtedly had something to do with that old one mentioned, or the old one is the only one who can solve the puzzle. Meanwhile, the cursed brush got annoyed, causing him to ask why he was still moving since he had given up already, and the trial had nothing to do with him. All of a sudden, Chung stares at the cursed brush, which startled him. Chung realized that something the enemy would never do, called etiquette. But then, Chung walks closer to the corpse, to which the cursed brush got confused again, and asked where he was going again. Chung started to do the proper etiquette and wished that it would work. Chung pays respect to the corpse of King Yama, which he expected this kind of method would return the head of King Yama. After that, Chung was confused. There was no response, but he noticed the red head earlier was on the top of the corpse. Chung didn't lose hope and remembered King Yama was the ruler of the Underworld, to which he thought he should perform a kowtow. So he quickly performed the kowtow, which means that he must pay a deep, respectful bow, often touching the forehead to the ground. Because of that, Chung managed to perform a kowtow to King Yama's corpse. Following that, a sudden light was immense on the top of the corpse, which made Cheng's performance a success. It turns out King Yama's head is already on his body, with a strong aura flowing all over the place, but in Cheng's mind, he didn't know who was he to set this trial for, but he needed this chance to be reborn. Then, a notification popped up, congratulating Chung for completing the trial, and the Mangpa soup had taken its effect on him. After he had obtained the Mangpa soup, Chung respawned outside on the Hell Gate with a smile on his face. Chung joyfully celebrated his success as he felt the magic flowing in his body, and the magic of sickness was gone as well. Then, the system screen appeared and informed Chung that the trial had been completed, as he fulfilled his promise and obtained the agreed-upon item, and his profession was an intern of the Underworld. After reading it, Chung wonders what he means about the one's pact, or it could be a hidden profession. Suddenly, the cursed brush was transformed into a gigantic monster with sharp teeth on Cheng's back, and not aware of its rage and its demonic figure, saying he was going to eat him alive. After hearing it, Chung felt something strange and teased him, asking if he needed to get super mad. But the mouth of the cursed brush opened and attempted to eat Chung. Chung was startled as he saw him and thought he was just joking around, causing him to panic. Then he brutally eats Chung due to his anger, which causes Chung to scream. Cheng's consciousness trying to recover after the cursed brush hit him so hard earlier. The only thing he can hear is the cursed brush explaining to King Yama that the trial was completed and he didn't mess around, as he was the senior official in the Underworld, and he felt unfair to have in charge of the newcomer, to which he swore that he won't do it again. Cheng's eyes slowly opened, and he thought of seeing a tall dark figure, and later on, Cheng's consciousness gave up. It turns out a lot of demonic creatures were in the room, while Chung was lying on the ground. Someone ordered that he needed the judge's pen and sent it out, since the selection trial of the kings have all concluded, and his plan was thwarted by 48, and now he had no successor, and he had no choice but to place his bet to Chung and see how things turn out for him. Adventurers are the wealthiest people in the world, and their wealth is recognized globally because it is earned through real risks. In this era of adventurers, it's a common sight to see crowds gathered outside portals. But this time, a lot of people had gathered around a portal, while some of them panic and ask about their children who'd on the portal same as the others who'd looking for their father as well. They are friends, parents, wives, children. Some families will always lose someone to their side of the world, and being able to bring back intact is considered the great's fortune for them. But then someone screaming, saying where he was and asking for help. But then, someone helped and opened the door on the freezer, and it was Chung, gasping for air, and he thanked whoever helped him. It turned out it was the cursed brush, as it was laughing at him, saying he was welcome. Chung was surprised, causing him to punch the cursed brush quickly and toss it on the ground. Shortly after, the cursed brush explained that Chung had left death's door, and a woman came in from outside and found him. Then some people dressed in black took him to the morgue, and Chung understood why he was in the morgue, which the cursed brush got annoyed, and asked why did he hit him as soon as he woke up, but Chung apologized as he thought he will eat him again. All of a sudden, Chung went silent as he realized that the security officer of the Adventurers Association must know something was wrong because no one had left the dungeon for a long time. Chung felt sad that no one survived under the hands of the Reapers since he lost time in the trial, and questioned the cursed brush if there were any survivors in the incident. The cursed brush informed him that aside from him, only 2 people had survived and suggested they would talk about it later, as they needed to get out first, which Chung agreed. Afterward, a staff member from the morgue, talking to himself, said he was exhausted from receiving multiple injured adventurers from the association one after another, and asked himself why he needed to make the deliveries. While pushing the dead body inside the room, Chung was immediately dashed to his side and quickly saw it. Because of that, he called Chung and ordered him to stop. The man told Chung that he must not run around in a hospital, causing Chung to stop quickly, and they were both staring at each other. So the man asked him if he knew where he was, while the cursed brush suggested Chung not to stop. As the man was going to tell, he recognized Chung as a dead person, causing him to pass out. Chung held the man, while the cursed brush scolded Chung as he said not to stop, and kept moving, and asked why he was still holding the man. Immediately, Chung had no choice but to put the man aside, as they needed to escape to the hospital as soon as possible. Meanwhile, a woman was talking to someone on the phone and told the caller she would handle it, as he was working hard on it. As the woman was worried, they didn't predict that an accident would occur at a level 5 portal, and the chief was kinda strict. While on her back it was Chung and the cursed brush both panicked that someone might recognize him and looking for the right direction. Chung scolded the cursed brush not to go that way, to which the woman heard it and immediately looked back. But the woman only saw a bunch of people who just passed by on the road, and she knew someone was there just by now. After a short period, at the busy street of somewhere where a lot of houses can be seen, Chung successfully got out of the hospital and managed to get home, entered his room, and locked the door. Because of his curiosity, the cursed brush asked if he lived in a place like this, and Chung got annoyed if he was not satisfied with his home. So the cursed brush compares his room to the underworld. It is much more spacious than his room. So Chung responds that his house prices must be pretty low too, which the cursed brush added, and it's free for the dead people. Suddenly, Chung quickly lay down on his bed and felt relieved after a very long, stressful day, and the cursed brush asked where his family was, which Chung calmly explained that he had no family and he lived alone. The cursed brush believed him and asked where he came from, and jokingly told him he might have popped out of a rock, causing Chung to feel sad. Chung explained both of his parents were adventurers, and they went missing when he was young, after entering a portal and never came back. Chung was also one of those people who couldn't find peace, standing in front of the portal for a long time. So some people looked at Chung as pitiful and in need of comfort, while others asked if he wanted to clean toilets, while Chung was searching on something. Chung was not satisfied and felt strange why he couldn't find anything. It's been decades since adventurers first appeared, and rare professions have been recorded. There were types of profession. There are necromancers, messengers of God, and lastly chariots. Hidden professions have long become things of the past. While he was searching for the answer on his phone, Chung wasn't sure that it could be a hidden profession. Chung hesitated, and he knew that the fact there has never been such a profession like him, and remembered that he had a rare job, so maybe he could. But then, Chung went silent and put his phone down, and questioned himself if it's right it continued to be an adventurer, since he had a rare profession now, or maybe soon he could. But is it really the right thing to keep being an adventurer? Although he'd actually come back to life, and did die once, as he recalled those traitors who'd kill him, Chung knew it's not easy to level up from level 1 again, and the competition among adventurers is fierce. Due to anger, Chung was worried as he gritted his teeth, and he could not guarantee that something like that wouldn't happen again. Then he recalled what Hexian did to him and made expectations about it, that to those people, they openly take advantage of low-level adventurers. Those people casually toy with the lives of others. Because of that, Chung held tightly to the sheets due to his anger and asked himself if he would survive. Shortly after, Chung sighed and said things were such a mess, but if he didn't continue as an adventurer, he really didn't know how to live in the future. Meanwhile, the cursed brush was looking at the broom on the corner, not paying much attention, while Chung added that because his parents suddenly disappeared, there were always rumors around him at school, he was bullied, and as a result, he didn't know how to blend with others. But then, Chung quickly sat down and forgot it, and invited him to see that skill that he obtained. So, Chung quickly commands the system to show his skills as he swipes it in the air. However, Chung was confused as to why nothing was showing up since he saw others doing it like he did earlier. Instantly, the cursed brush cursed him and asked how he could have skills at level 1. So Chung got hysterical that everyone had skills and asked how a level 1 person could enter a dungeon and level up. Then, the cursed brush told him not to worry, to celebrate his rebirth. The system has given him a gift, and Chung was surprised as he heard the gift. The system popped up, informing him that his mission was a gun in hand and needed him to follow and go to the Adventurers Association, and the reward was unknown. So Chung asked if it was the same mission board before, which the cursed brush told him they should go now and take a look. Shortly after, both of them reached the Adventurers Association, while Chung pondered why his mission sent him to the association. As they entered the building, Chung was worried and told that he must not come out, that someone might see him, which the cursed brush told him not to worry, since no one can see him except him, and he must lower his voice. Chung was anxious about why they were there, so the cursed brush explained that he was giving him a tour since he'd been there for a while, which Chung requested him not to run around. Both of them stop on the section where a man killed a monster, while Chung explained it's an awakening area. Anyone who kills their first monster awakens as an adventurer, but the cursed brush got annoyed by the foul smell on the room. Then they suddenly stop, and the cursed brush asked if this big building is used for awakening only, which Chung disagreed, that this place can handle anything. Anything related to the adventurer's identity can be dealt with here. Suddenly, the cursed brush sensed a strong magic. He looks above and asks what's upstairs, and he can feel the magic of countless portals, which Chung explained it was portals, and asked if he can sense that. So Chung explained that every branch of the association has a set of public portals for low-level adventurers, especially for level 1s to rank up to level 2, and after clearing the dungeon, the association will issue a report based on the adventurer's loot, casualties, and the monster's wounds. And if the adventurer performs well, they might get noticed by a guild and be invited for training. After hearing it, the cursed brush was amazed that Chung knew a lot and jokingly said he was a useless level 1. To which Chung thanked him and threatened he would throw his broom away. Suddenly, a man with heavy gear bumped Chung hard, causing him to lose his balance. The man got mad as he wiped his gear and told Chung he must not stand there and be more extra careful, so Chung quickly apologized. Because of that, the man glared at him, while the cursed brush told Chung the man just used a skill to glance at his panel with contempt. While Chung was wiping his shirt, the cursed brush asked if he was unfazed, that his personality is terrible, and Chung explained what can he do, since he was only level 1. From a distance, the cursed brush observes that the man with heavy gear bowed to the one who wears a tuxedo, and Chung explained that the guy could help him add a highlight to his adventurer's record, which the cursed brush told him was about the man looks very strong. After seeing it, the cursed brush smirks and wonders if that's how the world works, as soon his world will change. Suddenly, the system notified again and Chung quickly read it. Cheng's eyes widened, and he was surprised about what he had just read. The system informs about the mission objective, as he needed to choose a dungeon at the association, and the reward was unknown. Chung sighed in relief and thought choosing a dungeon is easy, and the cursed brush advised him step by step. He can't get ahead of himself. So, Chung stretched his body and confidently told himself that he was level 1 right now, so there was no need to rush. He should take it step by step. However, as they got there, Chung felt scared as he was looking at the dungeon, while the cursed brush asked what he was waiting for. Chung got paranoid and asked why he was the only one who had entered the dungeon, and the cursed brush that he meant about step by step. Chung got mad and told him that he must better explain himself, so the system popped up informing him that his mission was solo clear the dungeon, while the cursed brush told him he must calm down, that he can't control the mission content. Upon hearing it, Chung got even madder and asked if he even knew that a dungeon usually requires at least a 4-person team to clear, just like last time. A little while ago, after Chung inquired, the staff agreed, saying it was confirmed, and he was applying for a level 3 dungeon, and asked to select the dungeon he'd enter first, and he will be assigned to a team shortly, and once he'd chosen, he could go to the prep room and pick the items he think he need, and there was no limitation on the quantity, and he'd also receive dungeon info to help him prepare. Chung read it carefully since he needed to consider the difficulty and the monster type, as the options are the extinct volcano's foothill settlement, the Banshee's Laments, the Wind Orb Parade, the Water-Spirited Ruins, and the Cursed Brush wonders what was the matter, having trouble deciding between all of those options. So the Cursed Brush got irritated and told Chung he would help him to choose, and he quickly clicked the screen. Because of that, Chung got mad and asked what he did do, which the Cursed Brush said he must thank him, while Chung he would not thanked him since he was having trouble deciding. After that, the staff got it, saying she received the Water Sprite's ruins have been recorded in his application, and suggested he can go now to prep room to gather his items. Back in reality, the Cursed finally agreed that he will give Chung an extra life-saving skill, and told him to look at the mission, which Chung looked at it. The system notified and informed him that his mission is about the brush's 100,000 jokes, and the first joke he can slap the brush, and the reward is unknown. Upon reading it, Chung got more infuriated and choked him even more, while the cursed brush explained it was not his fault and that the mission content system was generated, and if Chung abandoned it, he would lose both the Mangpa soup and the life granted by the system. Hearing it, Chung stopped and realized that if he gave up, he could die. So Chung let go of him, since he can only do right now was to obtain the gift from the first mission. Chung decides to take the mission, and he activates his skill called Hellfire Embers, a remnant flame from the Hellfire Sea that will continue burning and consuming MP to use. Then, Chung activated the other one called the Paper Men, using paper figures as a medium to release 3 souls, transforming into 3 paper figures with a confusing effect, making them appear as the user. After that, Chung cheerfully knew that fake figures with confusion effects are getting even 1 life-saving skill in an adventurer's career as luckily, as he got 3 at once. Looking at the paper men, Chung couldn't believe he had learned such a valuable skill. So right now, he had both the Hellfire Embers and Paper Men skills, and also have a few MP recovery potions, some bandages, and a few smoke bombs, lastly some other basic items, since to clear a dungeon under those extreme conditions, Chung knew these resources aren't enough, but too much load would be burden. Chung entered the Water Sprite Ruin dungeon and thought to choose the strategy, which was to follow the map to find correct route while avoiding monsters as much as possible, thus completing the mission with minimal battle and cost. Chung read the description about the Water Sprite's ruins and explained that the place where water sprites once lived, but they were driven away and leaving behind many aquatic predators and traps, and the dungeon's objective set by the association, call it the beacons at the designated cations within the labyrinth, and guaranteed that it lead to successful exit the dungeon, causing Chung to wonder why the final goal was to defeat the dungeon boss. It's because many of the association's portals are reused, and a portal can bring benefits to adventurers, but once it is conquered, it disappears, becoming essentially a consumable. But someone found that as long as the boss's room isn't opened, the portal entrance won't close, and new monsters will even appear over time. And ever since using this method, it became a training ground for adventurers, and every portal is like a training field from World, which the Cursed Brush was disappointed since they figured out this loophole, and called them cheaters. But Chung was focused, and before starting the strategy, there was one thing to confirm. So he prepared his shoes and wear it tightly. After that, Chung stood up and checked the quality of the shoes and dipped them in the water, and the shoes named Water Walking Boots covers and made from magic-imbued materials. Because he had the magic disease, he couldn't use them even if he wore them, but now he was glad that he was totally cured, and wore them anytime without worrying too much. Chung notices that the Mangpa soup is working and widens his eyes due to excitement. He couldn't resist celebrating and happily started to run above the water, saying his magic disease was really gone, while the cursed brush was disappointed that Chung didn't believe him before. After the small celebration, Chung geared up as he knew it was time to set off. So a map can be seen. Chung explained that this water-filled area is quite vast, with many ruins to use as cover, and they move forward but slowly, and Chung bet this was hand-drawn by some association staff, and it's cool. They started to follow the map while walking slowly. But then, Chung reminded him not to go near that starfish because they will jump up and try to eat him, while the cursed brush was fighting over his life. While exploring, the cursed brush saw a frog with a halo above its head and asked what kind of creature it was or if it might be dead. Chung explained it was a soul-formed frog, enchanted with soul magic, to use as a lookout post. Chung felt a sigh of relief that so far he hadn't encountered any monsters, and if things went well, maybe he could clear this unscathed. All of a sudden, the system notifies informing the solo dungeon exploration mission that he must kill a one monster. After reading it, Chung got infuriated as he started to beat the cursed brush, saying he did report him again, and he must confess that he planned this with the system, which the cursed brush explained it was not him, that he didn't do anything. So, Chung had no choice but to accept it while looking at every corner of the place, but he remembered the main monsters in this dungeon. All of a sudden, a duck man suddenly appeared out of the blue, as he saw Chung from a distance. Seeing it, Chung knew it was a duck man and remembered that records said they were pack creatures, but lucky for Chung, he ran into a lone one. Because of that, the duck man got startled as he saw Chung was running towards him. Without hesitation, the duck man quickly ran, trying to escape where he was, and changed his direction while Chung was still chasing him. While the duck man was running, Chung noticed the whistle on his chest and planned to destroy it first. Chung cast his skill Fire Ember. While the cursed brush corrected him, it was a Hellfire Embers as he need to speak it properly. But Chung was hesitant that his target was too small and he can't aim properly. But then, the cursed brush advises that he must coat his weapon with the Hellfire Embers. Upon hearing it, Chung understood it as he started to summon his weapon and aimed it at his target. With full speed and flowing of his skill, Chung successfully created his skill called Flame Coating. While the duck man was still running, Chung struck the flame coating toward him. Because of that, the duck man hit directly, causing him to absorb so much damage and lose his balance. The duck man falls to the ground, and Chung slowly approaches, holding his sword, saying he was amazed by his powerful skill, and it doesn't go out even in water, but it consumes MP as long as it burns, while the cursed brush complimented Chung about his wise choice of weapon, and if he used something else, his enemy might be escape. The duck man saw Chung walk close and got scared as he was trying to stand up, but due to the strong damage of the skill, he couldn't help himself. Seeing it, the cursed brush told him it was begging for mercy and asked if they should let go it, causing Chung to wonder if the monster was begging for mercy, and it reminds of himself before. While the duck man acted crying in front of them, he secretly took the spear that he had earlier and planned to strike Chung. As he was about to attack, Chung noticed his action and struck his sword on the neck of the duck man. Because of that, blood is scattered in the air, and what Chung knew in the dungeon, begging in front of an enemy, is meaningless, and the cursed brush thought Chung would lose his life. But Chung asked that he noticed something but he didn't tell him. Chung hid his sword and saw that the system informed him that his MP was only 57 over 100. And as he read it, Chung was amazed because just one attack consumed nearly half of his MP, and he really needed to use it more sparingly. So, Chung got his bottle from his bag and started to drink it, and since his MP wasn't depleted yet, he should keep it full. There might not be a chance to recharge during battle. The cursed brush suddenly asked why Chung didn't want to use a longsword or a dagger, and why he chose a toothpick, and Chung explained that it was a rapier, and since he didn't have a weapon he was skilled with, so he chose one that is as long and light as possible. But then, Chung looked at the system screen and asked why his mission wasn't completed yet. The system screen showed that it had changed the count. The counter seemed not to register at all. It turns out the duck man was still alive and able to whistle his whistle blower. Upon hearing it, Chung quickly turned around, and he knew he was in deep trouble, as he thought he struck a fatal blow to the duck man. But then, the system screen changes the 0 to 1, and it means Chung has already killed the monster. Meanwhile, a lot of duck men were swarming on the water, and they aimed where Chung was, while Chung knew after hearing the whistle sound they will respond it quickly, and the cursed brush blamed Chung, saying he must not hit the enemy so lightly. All of a sudden, the group of duck men jumped above, and Chung was startled as he didn't expect that they would jump over him. Upon seeing it, Chung felt fear and hesitation, causing him to grit his teeth, as he didn't know if he wanted to fight them or not. But then, Chung was surrounded by a lot of duck men, and Chung didn't know where to run away, and it seemed there was no way out. Out of nowhere, a light suddenly appeared on the side, which caught his attention. A ray of hope for Chung can be seen, and he encouraged himself that there was a way out here while he was trying to grab something. Chung planned to grab the string of the smoke and managed to pull it. Because of that, an explosion of smoke had appeared, and thick smoke covered Chung and his escaping plan. Due to the smoke, the duck men coughed so hard and seized the moment to take the opportunity to escape where the duck men are. As the smoke vanished, all of the duck men were surprised that Chung had disappeared as they started to look for him, and the cursed brush pondered where Chung was as well. It turns out Chung was hidden under the water and took advantage to swim away as he deactivated his Hellfire Ember's skill, and the dust explosion from a smoke bomb was mixed with fire, although not very powerful, but enough to buy some time. While he was swimming, Chung compared his swimming speed and underwater vision on the duck man, which surpassed him, and if they spotted him, he couldn't escape, but then something strange passed by on the water, causing him to wonder what it was. Chung hesitated, thinking that he might just be seeing things since he knew the main monsters in this dungeon should be only duck men. But then Chung notices that the creature is coming on him. It turns out it was the cursed brush, and told his running away without him, which Chung blown up a lot of air in the water. The cursed brush told him he was a traitor, while Chung struggled to breathe as he was out of air. Because of that, Chung comes out on the water, and it created a splash of water, and the duck man instantly saw it. The duck men rushed towards him, as they knew it was him, while Chung felt weak and gasping for air, and the cursed brush got panic saying they've spotted them, which Chung blamed him after what did he do earlier. Without any delay, Chung ran as fast as he could, and the cursed brush asked him turn around and fight them, which Chung explained that he was about to escape successfully earlier, while the duck men started to chasing them. Chung checks the map, and he was disappointed there was only one path ahead on the map, so the cursed brush told him that he had no choice but to fight and asked if he could handle this many, that if he would die, he wouldn't be able to revive, but Chung told him to shut up. Once they were surrounded, it's over, and at this time, they have to think while running. Chung started to climb up on the rocks, and the cursed brush reminded him that he might be weak, but his stamina wasn't bad at all, and asked if it was the benefit of being a miner. As he landed, a duck man was on behind him, and he didn't aware about it. All of a sudden, it hits Chung, causing him to be tossed in the air. Chung managed to regain his composure, but he was confused that still a lot more enemies. Chung observed his surroundings, and he knew it was many, as he didn't know what to do. But then a emasculated duck man with a bandage on his eye was approaching him, and Chung knew it was because the previous explosion from earlier attracted them even more that instead of escaping, he'd ended up being surrounded. So Chung notices that among them, there seems to be someone quite skilled, a real tough one, while the tough duck man is pulling his sword out and giving them a death glare. Chung had no choice, and this was exactly the time to use his other skill, so he summoned his paperman skill and sword while the duck man wondered what Chung was doing. Just then, a paperman who looked like him appeared. Suddenly, the duck man charges at him, and Chung avoids it. Because of that, Chung received damage from the duck man attack, causing his blood to shatter, while Chung wondered why his skill was not working. So the cursed brush informed him that he needed to draw the eyes of his paper men, and Chung asked how to do it. So the cursed brush slimmed down his body, and instructed Chung that he would squeeze some ink for him, and he must draw the eyes accurately. It doesn't been to be perfect, just the form. So Chung asked if it make the paper men move, which the cursed brush agreed, saying it allows him to imbue it with his 3 souls, and Chung understood. If you want the part 2, let me know in the comment section. And don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.